In Leviticus 23, Hashem, God, gives the festivals, the feasts, the times and appointments of the Lord to the Jewish people, and he says, you shall declare these times and festivals. It begins with Shabbat, goes right into Passover, and then in Leviticus 23, verse 15, we have this obscure little reference to this time of counting. Hashem says to count 49 days or 7 weeks between Passover and Shavuot. So for Christians, counting the Omer it's important because there's actually some links to this, to the New Testament. For example, on the 40th day of the Omer was the time of our Master's ascension from the Mount of Olives. It's a time in which it brings a sense of focus as we lead up to something. You know, when my kids were little, I used to create a countdown calendar for them because I wanted them to anticipate a big event that was taking place that was upcoming. This is like a counting up calendar to a big event for the Jewish people. Perhaps even more importantly, it's a link. Think of a chain. The Omer connects Passover to Shavuot. It's an unbreakable chain, and there's an important spiritual lesson in this for us. It teaches us that salvation is both redemption, what took place at Passover, but it's also the indwelling of God's Spirit, empowering us to walk out that salvation. So in reality, Passover and Shavuot are connected and combined by the Omer. So by counting the Omer, we're thinking about, we're reflecting upon not only what took place at Passover just a few weeks ago, but we're leading up to a time in which God gave us His Torah, His instructions, His will, and His wisdom in order that we may be that saved, redeemed people that He set us free to be. So the Omer is counted every night after the evening prayers of Ma'ariv. We will say the Omer together. We'll say the day and the week and the time, and we'll acknowledge that. And then we'll read a text from Psalm chapter 67. So first of all, Psalm 67 was prayed during the count of the Omer during the time of the Master. So it's something that he and the disciples would have been praying along with the rest of the people of Israel. But it's a prophetic text. God has blessed us. God's blessed us because He redeemed us from Egypt. And He's blessed us that His way, His Torah, His instructions, His will and wisdom may be known amongst all nations. So that links us to Acts chapter 1, verse 8, where Yeshua tells His disciples, He says, you know, you'll be my disciples and you're going to take the message to Judea, Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria and to all the ends of the earth. So think of this. This is being prayed in the synagogue every night. It was prayed at the time of the Master. But then think of Acts chapter 2, what takes place in Shavuot and Pentecost. The Spirit comes down, the nations are represented, and the message was that God's salvation is not just for the Jewish people, but it's for all nations. And that's what took place in Acts chapter 2, was a fulfillment in many ways of this prayer that the Jewish people have prayed and continue to pray, that all nations, all people will know God and His instructions and His ways.